Is Spotify the bad guy? The illegal rise of Spotify. Spotify has changed the music industry forever. With over 433 million users, Spotify is currently the world's biggest audio streaming platform. But what if we told you that all of this came at a cost? Is Spotify's success really all that organic? Or was there some foul play involved? In this video, we're taking you through the illegal rise of Spotify. The early days. When you think about it, Spotify comes from really humble beginnings. Before Spotify came around, listening to music was a completely different ballgame. People either had the choice to use illegal services like Napster or subscribe to Apple Music, which asked users to pay $2 per track. This is what gave rise to music piracy, helping people download songs over the internet for absolutely free. This is when Swedish entrepreneurs Daniel Ek and Martin Laurentiusson decided to bridge the gap with Spotify. In the beginning, though, it was difficult to convince people to pay for a music streaming service. Why? Well, because everyone had become so used to pirating music for free. So Spotify wasn't competing against other platforms, it was competing against its very targeted user base that had become used to downloading music for free. Ek and Laurentiusson started developing the platform all the way back in 2006. And at that point, Daniel knew it wasn't going to be easy to convince an entire generation of music listeners to move away from pirating and paying for the music. But how he wanted to solve that problem was to create a service that was better than piracy and also gave back to the artists who were suffering the most with their music being illegally shared. Spotify was launched in 2008, and originally it worked on an invite-only model for its free ad-supported tier. This meant that users who had access to the free tier could also invite a bunch of their friends. And this exclusivity is what helped Spotify grow in its initial stages. Other than the free tier, the users could also pay around $10 to stream unlimited, ad-free music every month. Compared to Apple Music's model, where you had to purchase every single album, this was a pretty affordable alternative. By September 2008, Spotify was available on all smartphones. Millions of songs of all eras and genres were accessible to people in one place. And the interactive user experience that the subscribers got with Spotify was unlike any other. From customized playlists to a seamless listening experience, Ek and Laurentiusson invested millions of dollars into developing the platform's user interface. Spotify's overnight success helped them raise $2.7 billion in 22 funding rounds. Reviving the music industry. With their unparalleled user experience, Spotify was able to convince the big players in the music industry like Sony, Universal, EMI, and Warner Music to collaborate with them and publish music on the platform. With these 4 labels on board, the music industry was able to recover revenues that were being lost to piracy, making this a give and take relationship. And because the 4 labels had such a big hold on the music industry, this automatically helped Spotify target a brand new market. The labels went on to become Spotify's biggest shareholders, helping the platform garner international success. 2010 was yet another successful year for the platform after it partnered with Facebook. This partnership helped Spotify expand to America, and that was the beginning of a new chapter for the music industry. By 2011, Spotify had over 10 million tracks in its catalog with over 1 million users. With its expansion to America, the platform was able to strike deals with brands like Coca-Cola, Motorola, and Reebok to market itself to American audiences. And once the platform had a large enough user base, that's when Spotify introduced its premium version, featuring no ads, unlimited skips, and offline streaming. And because people were so used to listening to music on Spotify by then, they rushed to subscribe to the premium service, giving Apple iTunes intense competition. But in 2015, Apple clapped back with Apple Music. While iTunes had originally asked users to pay per download, Apple Music rebranded itself into a monthly subscription service just like Spotify. The platform scored exclusive deals with artists like Frank Ocean, Drake, and Taylor Swift, which meant that fans couldn't listen to their music anywhere other than Apple Music. In the wake of all this competition, Spotify still chose to focus on its own features. First of all, the founders made sure to provide both free and premium users with an optimized music experience. So regardless of the money they paid, Spotify never compromised on the service that it provided its users, helping the platform attract people of all kinds, adding to its yearly revenue. On February 28, 2018, Spotify filed a direct listing on the New York Stock Exchange, allowing it to formally go public as a business. The dark side of Spotify. While it's true that the company now generates over $1.36 billion in yearly revenue and has a net worth of over $13.6 billion today, Spotify has had to face its fair share of troubles. Since the company's launch in 2006, Spotify has had to face tons of criticism from the music industry. And the main component of that is how they compensate their artists. While it's true that Spotify initially aimed to curb piracy and offer artists legal compensation for their work, it seems like that hasn't really been the case. Spotify's business model relies on the platform paying royalties to artists based on the number of streams that they receive. So instead of paying artists a fixed amount, the compensation that they receive is almost criminally low. This has led to several singers like Taylor Swift and Jay-Z calling the platform out for how less it paid artists. At the same time, 70% of the platform's revenue goes to shareholders, who then decide to pay the artist based on their individual agreements, which isn't a fair deal. Why? Well, because it means that while Spotify relies on artists for all its content, it's the record labels that get to keep most of the earnings. Another issue that a lot of people in the music industry had with Spotify was the fact that the platform allowed users to listen to free music with ads between tracks within its free service tier. Once again, this eats a chunk out of the artist's compensation and has led to plenty of singers moving away from the platform or delaying their releases on Spotify, despite the platform's claims of using its free tier to drive the users away from piracy. And to top it all off, recently, Spotify has also come under fire for a bunch of security breaches, where their users had their personal details, including their billing receipt details, leaked. That, combined with Spotify's ambiguous changes to its privacy policy that allowed the platform to have greater access to users' personal data and location, has resulted in an overall lack of trust that the company is trying hard to reverse. Not just this, but some critics also claim that Spotify worked on a pay-for-play policy, which meant that any artist or labels that paid the platform would have their songs strategically played on popular playlists. And while Spotify has denied all these claims, it really makes you wonder whether the platform really is as user-centric as it claims to be. The future of Spotify. All of that said, There is still no other audio streaming platform that comes quite close to the success of Spotify. With a revolutionary idea, Eck and Laurentensen took free music and turned it into a billion-dollar valuation. And while it's true that the entire idea seemed pretty ambitious back in the 2000s, it has been a risk worth taking. As the world continues to make advancements in AI technology, Spotify has already shown us how the technology can be used to create personalized experiences that will just keep the users coming back for more. With podcasts, mini music videos, mood playlists, weekly and daily mixes, Spotify continues to change the experience of listening to music. As far as the future is concerned, the platform aims to reach 1 billion users by 2027. After dethroning Apple Podcast and becoming the leading platform to stream podcasts, it looks like Spotify is now all set to enter the audiobook market with the platform's recent acquisition of audiobook distributor Findaway. All in all, with 31% of the total revenue and 35% of total paid subscribers, as opposed to Apple Music's 24% total streaming revenues and 19% share of the total paid subscribers, the future is bright for Spotify. In 2010, Spotify only had control over 7% of the US music industry, and today, the number has gone up to over 83%. So it's safe to say that Spotify has helped the music industry attain stability like no other. And while the platform has had to face some major setbacks along the way, its continued success just goes on to show that the grip that it has on the music industry isn't easy to compete with. Subscribe to our channel if you want to watch more content like this.